Psalm 45, 6 through 8 was a king called God. Psalm 45, 6, usual translation by the Jewish Publication Society in 1917. Your arrows are sharp, the peoples below fall under you. They sink into the heart of the king's enemies. It doesn't really say they sink. In this translation, the people fall. Psalm 45, 6 alternative translation. Your arrows are sharp, peoples are below you. They, meaning the arrows, will fall into the heart of the king's enemies. Explanation. I think the psalm writer is saying that God is shooting arrows at the king's enemies. Instead of the quote saying the peoples are falling below God or the king, I think the arrows are falling into the peoples below God, killing the king's enemies. God also shoots arrows at people in Psalm 18:15, in Psalm 38:3, and in many other quotes. Psalm 45:7, usual translation. Your throne, God, is forever and ever. A scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. Explanation. Some commentators say that the psalm writer is calling the king God. Kings of Israel used to judge the people, and they say that human judges were called gods because they judged people like God. For examples of kings of Israel judging the people, see Judges 15, 2 through 6, and 1 Kings 3, 16 through 28. I don't think human judges were called gods, and I don't think there's any proof for this claim. It is also possible that the psalm writer thought that the unidentified king was a god because in those times some kings were considered to be gods. I think the psalm writer talks to this king in Psalm 45, 2 through 5, and then suddenly starts talking to God in Psalm 45, 6 through 7, when he says, Your throne, God. I think he switches back to talking to the king in Psalm 45, 8. There are other Psalms where the writer says you to someone and then talks to God also as you. Psalms 52, 2 through 7 is to someone, and Psalm 52, 11 is to God. Psalm 55, 13 through 15 is to someone, and Psalm 55, 2 through 4 and 55, 24 are to God. In Psalm 66, 1 through 8, the psalm writer talks to all the earth and peoples, and in Psalm 66, 10 through 15, the psalm writer talks to God. Psalm 118:13 is said to someone, and Psalm 118:21, 25, and 28 are said to God. Psalm 135, 1 through 2, and 19 through 20 are said to people, and Psalm 135:13 is said to God. Psalm 45:8 usual translation. Upon thus has anointed you God your God. Psalm 45:8 is controversial because it says God your God. Some commentators say it says, Upon thus has anointed you God your God, calling the person God with the first word. In other words, they say it means upon thus your God has anointed you, O God. Explanation. I think the writer is saying to a man that God your God has anointed you, and the writer is not calling the man God. There are other quotes that say things like God your God. For example, see Psalm 43:4, God my God. Psalm 48:15, God our God. Psalm 57, God your God. Psalm 67:7, God our God. Psalm 68:9, God the God of Israel. And 1 Chronicles 28:20, God my God. Psalm 57 could sound like God is calling Israel God because he says, God your God am I. 1 Chronicles 28:20 could sound like King David is calling his son Solomon, my God, because he says, because the Lord God, my God, is with you. This video would be very hard to understand if I tried to explain everything about these quotes here. If you want to read more of my explanations about these quotes, I recommend getting my book, Hebrew Bible Quotes That Have Been Misunderstood for Thousands of Years, 3rd edition, Volume 4, Micah to Psalm 55, by Kenneth Greifer.